So on this channel, I've spent a lot of time discussing how aerosol affects human health. And thus far, it's been looking at the detrimental effects associated with aerosol exposure. So things like air pollution, particularly air pollution, indoor air quality, and disease transmission. Now, not all aerosol is detrimental to human health. In fact, some aerosol is engineered to improve human health. This aerosol is termed pharmaceutical aerosol. So in this video, I'm going to introduce the concept and discuss pharmaceutical aerosol. Hello. In order for any pharmaceutical to have a therapeutic effect, it must first reach the location in the body where there's a problem. So for example, let's say you have heartburn. The simple solution would be to swallow an antacid. Now, once the antacid reaches the stomach, the pill will dissolve in the stomach acid, and through this simple chemical reaction, the acid will be slightly neutralized, thus reducing the heartburn. All right, let's say your eye is irritated. Well, some eye drops, such as lubricants, will work quickly to alleviate the symptoms. Similarly, antibiotic ointments can be used to help heal a cut. Now, let's say you have a headache. Unlike heartburn, a sore eye, or a cut, you can't deliver the pharmaceutical directly into your forehead. Instead, it's common to take a pain-killing tablet, so something like aspirin. Now, once swallowed, in the stomach, aspirin is mostly the non-ionized form due to the low pH of the stomach. Now, this helps it pass readily through the gastric lining and into the bloodstream. Now, once in the bloodstream, it's hydrolyzed to form salicylic acid. Now, salicylic acid is the form that gives aspirin most of its systemic beneficial effects. In short, aspirin goes through numerous processes prior to it becoming effective. Collectively, what this all means is that to design an effective pharmaceutical, one needs to not only consider how it works at the site of action, but also how the pharmaceutical is processed in the body prior to reaching the site of action. Okay, so where a pharmaceutical is delivered in the body will affect A, how well the drug works, and also critically how quickly it works. All right then, so if we're talking about diseases of the lungs, it makes sense to deliver the pharmaceutical directly to the lungs. But where in the lungs? While the lungs are a single organ, the structure of the lungs is extremely complex, and different diseases or conditions commonly associated with the lungs will affect different regions. Now, in a previous video, I discussed where and how aerosol deposits when it's inhaled. I also discussed that size has a large effect on where most of the aerosol is deposited, but most is not all. For example, for this aerosol type, about 35% of the 1 micron aerosol is delivered to the head, while about 10% is delivered to the alveolar region. What this means is that while an inhaled pharmaceutical aerosol will be deposited throughout the lungs, we can't control where most of the dose is delivered. So for example, consider an asthma attack. What is happening is that a trigger, so things like exercise or allergens, causes something called bronchoconstriction. This is when the smooth muscles surrounding the bronchial tubes, those being the larger ones in the lungs, contract and squeeze. This narrows the air passages, making it difficult to breathe. Thus, to alleviate this, short-acting beta agonists, or SABA for short, such as salbutamol, are delivered to the lower airways, where the SABAs bind to the receptors on the airway's smooth muscle cells. This activates a process that relaxes the smooth muscles and widens the airways within minutes. Now, if the dose is delivered to the deeper part of the lungs, like the alveolar region, since there are less receptors for the drug and the contracting smooth muscle are also not located near the alveolar region, this significantly limits the efficacy of the drug. So clearly, where the drug is delivered is very important in the treatment of an asthma attack. Okay, but what about a different condition? Now, given people's aversion to needles, there's been an effort to develop an inhalable form of insulin. Afrezza is one such drug. In order for Afrezza to work, it must reach the alveolar region. This is because systemic absorption occurs through the alveolar epithelium. So when the drug reaches the deep airway, it actually works. Any Afrezza that's delivered to the upper airways will not be absorbed efficiently and will just be removed via mucosal clearance. This dramatically lowers the effectiveness of the drug. In short, a specific quantity of the pharmaceutical needs to be delivered to a precise location in the lungs to garner the desired result. It's not just about inhaling the drug, but making sure the drug goes where it's most effective. Okay, so if delivering a pharmaceutical into specific locations in the lungs is important, how do you control that? Now, this is where engineering and aerosol science comes in. Over the past century, various types of formulations and aerosolization techniques have been developed to deliver inhalable pharmaceutics. People have been inhaling therapeutic vapors and aerosol for thousands of years. The oldest modern technique used to deliver inhalable pharmaceutics is the nebulizer. There are many types of nebulizers, but fundamentally they all do the same thing, which is produce a large amount of water-based aerosol that is immediately inhaled. Now, typically nebulizers take around 5 to 20 minutes to deliver a complete dose, which is a while. And along with the time issue, there's also the issue of waste, where much of the dose is not actually inhaled. For example, jet nebulizers produce aerosol constantly, even when the patient's exhaling. Note that for breath-actuated nebulizers, they only produce aerosol during the actual inhalation event. Now, to address these shortcomings, devices have been developed to deliver the entire dose within a single inhalation event. Metered dose inhalers are the most popular device for delivering drugs to the lungs. In MDIs, the pharmaceutical is dissolved or suspended in a propellant. The propellant is a highly volatile liquid, such that when the liquid is exposed to room pressure, the liquid flash evaporates, leading to the production of an aerosol plume that is inhaled. Now, another liquid-based device are soft mist inhalers. In SMIs, the formulation is forced through a nozzle, which rapidly produces a fine mist that is inhaled. These are defined as unpropelled mechanical sprays and are typically water or saline based. Now, finally, there are dry powder inhalers. DPIs are exactly what the name describes. An engineered dry powder containing the drug is aerosolized when a user breathes through the device. This usually requires a flow rate of around 30 to 60 liters per minute. What this means is that many people whose lungs are operating poorly simply cannot use a DPI. So people with like COPD, for example. All right, so collectively, what this all means is that we have a range of devices that can be used to treat a broad range of health conditions. Each has its advantages and disadvantages, and how each operates is fundamentally different. So depending on the condition being treated, or the nature of the formulation itself, so for example, is it water soluble or not, various devices have been developed to deliver drugs to the lungs. Now, as mentioned, each have their advantages and shortcomings, but for the most part, they've been largely successful at improving health outcomes. Pharmaceuticals have significantly contributed to longer and healthier lives for people with asthma. They provide effective treatments that control inflammation, prevent severe attacks, and allow for long-term disease management, and have transformed asthma from a potentially life-threatening condition into a manageable chronic disease for most people. Likewise, for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, pharmaceuticals help by relieving symptoms, improving quality of life, and prevent exacerbations or flare-ups, in some cases potentially slowing the progression of the disease, allowing for an improved life expectancy. Now, arguably, the largest impact has been in the treatment of cystic fibrosis. The life expectancy of a patient suffering from cystic fibrosis was only 31 years in 1990. Through advancements in treatment, including the improvements in inhalable pharmaceutics, this has now shot up to over 53 years. A tremendous success. So over the past couple centuries, scientists have developed many ways of delivering various types of pharmaceuticals to the lungs. And this is impressive given the complexities involved. Now that said, these complexities also offer an opportunity. Now in a future video, I'm going to discuss exactly what happens when these inhaled pharmaceuticals enter the lungs and how aerosol scientists use these processes to help improve where the dose is eventually being delivered, or maximize where that dose is being delivered. Okay, so with that, I hope you found that interesting, found it useful. If you like, please like. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below or ask me on Bluesky Twitter. And with that, Mix has all the references I used to make the video. Thanks.